panther, the incarnated panther totem who come in like the movie Black Panther, but there's still another totem animal that can make the move for the throne. Right? So then you see that he fight with the gorilla, the gorilla clan don't really want this shit. But when the panther ain't around to go get it, now the gorilla's gonna have to cover his back. Because you know what's happened together in order to overcome the obstacles put in front of us by whatever the opposition is. It's just that my job is to make all of these conjures be undone.
You talked about, we also talked about, this is an interesting concept I know a lot of people never heard of. When we talk about Earth and you talk about the Anunnaki, one of the first things people think about is the mining of gold. You talked about how the righteous people who walk the earth, a byproduct of having a righteous spirit, produces gold on the earth.
Yeah.
And a byproduct of unrighteous spirit produces oil. Could you, now that's some weird shit. Could you elaborate on that? For a lot of us, that's weird.
But we are accumulated stardust.
Yeah.
Right. When we walk on the earth as a righteous soul, the earth being naturally creates the gold. It's a heart chakra resonance that causes the reflection of the sun penetrating the organism, reaching the core of the earth, and it get trapped on the return in the veins of the earth as veins of gold. Right? The unrighteous, because they need time and temperature to develop, start out as the producing oil in the earth, because this is how the earth filters the dirt they do. So they turn it into capital. The oil need time, temperature, and pressure to become a piece of coal. And from a piece of coal, it moves as a dynamic diamond, as the most purified form of carbon, which is transparent. But it gives off the appearance of colors by the pigmentations of light that's striking. So it's a prism of light. And so those who come in, low vibrational beings, as they evolve, produces the oil as a side effect of their presence, striking the core of the earth, getting trapped in veins that they call oil veins. Right? But it's not just those two. It's also all of the platinum group metals are all of the masters on the planet, or the master family bloodlines. These is what they call key lines or key bloodlines. And this is why your ley lines are also called key lines on the earth. It's all correspondences. Like in hermetics.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything got a side effect.
Yeah.
But we don't know what the side effect is to everything. The hard part for us on Earth was to figure out why we had gold and other places didn't. Because our sun, in interaction with mainly the women, because at some one time it wasn't no men, for the gold to accumulate, it started with them. And they golden heart. This is where you get your sun worship from. The presence of the stardust that forms the being in the purified heart produces the gold on the energy return to the sun. Right? So it's like a reflection of light hit the core of the earth, go through you on the way, take your essence with it. Because you righteous, when it come back out, you got platinum, you got gold, you got iridium, you got copper, right? And the weakest of them all is the iron, right? But that's the first phase of the higher development. And you notice that the symbol for iron is Fe, prefix for female. When they talk about Iron Man, Fe man, female, feminine man, right? Talking about creative potentialities. Do your right brain function or just your left brain?
Mm-hmm.
We supposed to be ambidextrous. What happened? Why we not? Somebody did something to maim us.
Mm.
They wounded our right hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
So the brain damage make the other side become more dominant. Now you have to work through the brain damage in order to get back to the function of the ambidextrous status of the brain functioning in harmony.
Right.
And you got to live it out in your life in order to find all of the properties to rebuild the right hemisphere, which is the hemisphere of wisdom, artistic creation, and spirituality. Left hemisphere is responsible for intellect, logic, and reason.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put them together, they're supposed to work together in synthesis.
Mm-hmm.
But they telling us the way that we treat our women shows whether we're looking for the synthesis or the antithesis, the separation, the division. They feed us the seeds of division. I be listening to all these people trying to tell people about relationships like we ain't never had relationships before. I'm like, damn, what about all them people that stayed together 40 years and there wasn't no such thing as a marriage counselor?
Right, right.
They had no such thing. What about before that when we would have relationships till we 120 and we've been together 97 years?
Yeah.
We forget about all that stuff. Now we think it's so hard to have a relationship. Yeah, because everybody's selfish, self-centered, and greedy, entitled, and don't want to do no self-work, but they want everybody else to work on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to never work.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to always blow up in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the denial is the reality that everybody don't have to think the same. Everybody don't supposed to see everything the same, because if they did, then there would be no richness to life. We all just be like logs floating down the river.
Yeah, exactly. You said when I was talking to you, you told me the 7 sisters produced the metals. Can you elaborate on who's the 7 sisters?
The 7 sisters is the Pleiades. Those are they also produce crystals. Right.
Palladians? You mean the Palladians? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but all of those things is okay. So everything that we use on Earth for spiritual practice is somebody we ordered it out of a catalog, for lack of a better way to put it. We built this shit off the Sims.
Damn.
The Voynich manuscript is an ancient catalog that we used to order from another star system some stuff we needed to make Earth beautiful.
So you're like, let me get some marijuana. Let me get some of this. Like that's how, like that.
Well, that was brought. THC cannabis was brought from the Canis star system.
Let me say that, yeah.
Right, and that's what they needed. Just like the mushrooms was brought by the Teros, the ones that they said they got the fat gene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those with the overalls, the old farmer boys. They brought us the mushroom. The mushroom has since got. Oh man, you asked me about that.
Oh yeah, I asked you early. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna talk to you about that. Yeah.
So the name of we named the mushroom psilocybin under the Greek genus of species, and the spirit of the mushroom said it was his favorite name when I asked him why. He said because it sounded like silly ass Cyrus, and he just bust out laughing so hard, man. Wow. But he gave me some information, and I just knew I was you hallucinating. It can't be true, right? So I come out of the trip and checked out everything he said, and everything he said checked out A1 true. Damn. Fucked me up. Wow. Brother Rich, this was this year.
This year?
This was about 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
He came in with a light show.
Yeah.
It was crazy. He came in with a light show. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? He said, I'm psilocybin. I get extra serious when I be dealing with something that's not normal to me. So I'm like, who the fuck?
Oh, wow. I am psilocybin. Wow. Oh, man.
He went to showing me where the life cycle of the mushroom. I'm looking at snotty cow noses, snotty moose noses,
Yeah.
snotty buffalo noses. They all in the fields sucking in spores, sneezing them back out, and then dropping dung on them.
Yeah.
And then the mushrooms spring out the dung. So he's showing me the life cycle, but the one that threw me off, he told me to focus on the elk. Right? He said elk love mushrooms, right? And so we go on and on and on. Then he tell me that for psychic healing, the proboscis monkeys still use mushrooms for psychic healing, right? So I'm getting all this in the trip. He didn't tell me, he say, I got mushrooms everywhere. Wherever you need to know something, I got mushrooms there. He went to showing me mushrooms in caves. He showed me mushrooms on mountains, mushrooms in the fields, mushrooms on trees. He's just showing me different places where mushrooms at, right? But then he took me back to the cave, right? So he said, now this is the whatever species of mushroom he told me it was, and he said they got something called bioluminescence. It allows them to illuminate caves. So I come out of the trip and somebody sent me a reel talking about animals that get high. And it's landed on the elk love the mushroom, a specific strain of mushroom. Blew me back. Boom. So I'm like, man, so that made me go look up the proboscis monkey. And then they say the proboscis monkey has an obsession with the mushroom. And I'm like, God damn. I said, okay, I'm tripping. So I go on here about 2-3 hours later, I come back, I go check my messages. Somebody sent me bioluminescent mushroom illuminates cave article. I'm over here tripping off my trip.
Basically. tripping off your trip. Yeah.
I was like, wow, that was, I'm like, I'm not even under the mushroom experience now. The aftermath is more dynamic than the actual trip itself.
That was a hella interesting story right there, right? Wow. Wow. So something else we was talking about, Rob, when we was talking about the different cycles and the different thing, because we were just basically talking about how this shit is just a video game. And
it's a proverb that said there's nothing new under the sun. If it's a guy named Michael Cremo, he wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology. Got history that is so far back that it doesn't make sense for it to exist with our current paradigm. Right? But he's going through the different cycles, what he called the Great Kali Yuga and the Lesser Kali Yugas. They're cycles within cycles. Right? When you go back to Vedic history doesn't read the same as Western history. You get millions of years of history through the Hindu schools that you don't get in modern paradigm education. Right? Because the Hindu culture is the oldest culture that still practiced the same way no matter who settled their land. They've been it's the oldest uninterrupted culture on the planet. Everybody else been interrupted.
The Hindu culture.
Yeah. What we call modern day India. Right. And they had different names for it. All of these names that we use in as exonyms, they was given to us by invaders. Right. All of the names that we used to use, they changed the spelling or pronunciation. For the tribes that didn't write, they changed the pronunciation of it.
Right.
And when they do that, they write a history, and we don't even know they're talking about us in our face behind our back. All the time they talking about us, calling us Negro, but they telling us how they slaughtered us off and purged us from the land that we own while we sitting there getting the lesson from the liar that's telling the story. right? Because the victor gonna tell the story that's gonna make the ones conquered remain conquered as long as possible. They're not gonna never tell you the story that's gonna liberate you. And knowledge itself is liberation.
Right, right.
Right? The highest form of liberation is to liberate the self from other people's paradigms so that you can see the perspective from your own viewpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing to teach in the current paradigm, because the current paradigm says you automatically wrong, the system automatically right, and we got the police to beat you in the head and shoot you in the ass to prove it.
Mm.
We wear the uniforms and we write the paper. We got to be the right people.
Right.
So we assume because they uniformed and they got all of these stacks of papers, then they look important, they must be important motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All the time, they the frauds. And the really important one is that old man in the hood sitting there drinking his wine, watching the world go by because he ain't participating in these games. Because it don't make sense to him. Right? It's a song by Incognito called 100 and Rising.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl singing, she said, old man sitting in the shade, no longer wanting to participate in this charade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's sitting there drinking his lemonade, and it's 100 and rising. You're watching the temperature of the summer day go up, but she also watching the temperature of the people go up, spiritually speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Body temperature might not go up, but eventually you're going to get fed up with certain stuff. It just takes the strongest people longer to get fed up enough to do the right thing about it.
Facts.
Yep. Oppression is atmospheric. That means that you only going to stay as oppressed as you're willing to accept. Then you're going to break free because you're done with that crap.
Mm. You also talked about because we talk a lot about us in a former cycle being giants, and there's so much evidence that we used to be giants. We was talking about how we chose this particular avatar, smaller one, to populate more.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is a chapter of misery, the epoch or the age of warfare. When you was giants, the warfare was fought mano a mano. When you modern size humans, you fight your wars with armies. Right. So it's not reliant on one person having to be the strongest. If he can position the most soldiers in the best spots, he can win the war without striking a blow. So we didn't been through everything. If you can think of it, we did it already. Because it's already in your memory bank. Right. Now you can create something with the agency of art that's an abstract of something we're going to create in the future. Because you can see the future and the past at the same time when you're not in the body.
Right. We just talked about that.
Right. Only hindsight is 20/20 and the future is murky. So when you write it in the abstract, when you pass the phenomenon, you'll recognize it in symbolism. It's like driving down the street real fast and everything is a blur. But if you periodically take a picture, you say, I didn't even know I missed that. That's what the art is.
Deep.
So now you look back on the art and then you can see the spiritism in the art form that allow you to read the pulse of the people when they put it on the drum. You know, Hadith say Muhammad told his subjects to bring him the duffs. That's the drums. You got drums in Islam. You got drums in tribal culture of Africa. Drums in the tribal cultures of the Americas. Drums in the tribal cultures of Asia, in the plains of Asia, the Mongolian empires. You got drums in Europe. You got drums in Australia, drums on the islands, the Tongans and the Samoans, they all beating on the drum.
Mm.
Tribal stories relay a message on the drum. The echo can be picked up in the future and written as a new song.
Mm.
It's time travel without going there physically.
Right, right.
You send the message in the future on the beat. Next time the beat come up, the message come out.
Mm.
You thought that beat ain't never been heard before. You just ain't hear it in this lifetime. But whoever put the message on the track is the one who can see the message that was being delivered when it was made the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The one who can hear the track, that's the producer that make the beat. He can hear the echo of the past.
Mm.
Right? It's a book called Echoes of the Old Dark Land.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Talking about going back to the melanin center.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But we always refer to it in modern times as going back to Africa.